just for internal use. So yeah, thanks for coming. As Mike mentioned, my name is Peter Walkie. Let me walk you through our agenda here real quick. Quick introduction. I'm going to walk you through what is Yammer. Let me get a quick show of hands, actually. How many people have used Yammer? Okay. Cool. That helps me. And then I'm going to talk about the integration of SharePoint and Yammer. Start using that term today. SharePoint and Yammer in 2010. I'll give you a demo of working with documents, working with conversations in SharePoint inside of Yammer and seeing the two come together. And then we'll talk about our story in 2013. So first off, introductions. Again, I'm Peter Walkie. That is actually me in first grade. I wanted to be a lawyer, I think, was it? But that little briefcase is actually a little backgammon game. So I've been SharePointing since 2007. And I'm a car nut, anything old or German, I'm very interested in. Ski bum, I love skiing. Got a ski trip in about a week or two. Tech geek in general, talk to me about Raspberry Pi, talk to me about Arduino, talk to me about home theater PCs. I love that stuff. These slides are available right now, even as we speak, at bit.ly/spyammer. You can get in touch with me at pwalkie or LinkedIn and pwalkie. Without further ado, good thing is there's not going to be a lot of slides here. I've got a total of 6 slides. A lot of it is going to be walking through the platform, everything that I can show you, I will show you. So next question is, what is Yammer? Let me show you that. So let's break out here. So we set up a domain at Rightpoint called developmentrightpoint.com. And I set up I hooked this up to some Google Apps and set up a couple users so I can get pwalkie@developmentrightpoint.com. And so what I did was I went to Yammer and I signed up. And when you say, how do you sign up for Yammer? You just go to yammer.com and you sign in with your work's email address. So it would be pwalkie@rightpoint.com. And then what automatically happens is that I'm put into a private enterprise social network. So what does enterprise social network really mean? The best way to think about it is Twitter for the enterprise. So in the same way that you can speak to everyone, you can have direct messaging, you can like comments, you can reply to comments.
It's more like Facebook rather than Twitter,
I
right?
think it's maybe a little bit more like Twitter in the sense that you're following people, whereas in Facebook it's two-way. Anybody who's in your network can see your posts. Now, in a large corporation, that main feed tends to become a little bit noisy. So, for example, this all company feed here almost becomes like a popularity contest between people, like who can have the most posts or who's the most popular. So what we suggest, I suggest people do is work inside the groups themselves that really matter. So, for example, I've got sample one for like development, software development here, and you can post things targeted towards those groups. So again, this is free. This is free to use. It's a private network, and it's kind of an interesting sales ploy that Yammer has. So it's completely free. You can go in there with a Microsoft.com email address if you work there, and you can automatically be conversing with all these Microsoft people. Now, the concern from an IT point of view is governance, right? Someone leaves. How do you make sure that they're removed from the Yammer? How do you make sure that people aren't talking about sensitive client information? How do you monitor those keywords? So that's where IT gets understandably a little bit scared. Going to the user point of view, there is a way where Yammer will allow you to remove people that have left, only if their email bounces. So let's say somebody was a popular salesperson, though, and you want to keep taking their emails in. those aren't going to bounce. You'd either have to set up a rule with your net admins to bounce stuff from Yammer, such that they can't now get access to Yammer. But already it presents some IT maintenance issues, right? Any questions about Yammer itself right now? Like, is this the first time anybody's seen it, or? Yeah, what do you?
So regarding governance, do you think are they attempting to replace the my sites component of SharePoint, or just that would seem to be a easier way to manage governance issues in some of the meetings?
Yep.
So
I can get. So if you pay, you get governance.
Okay.
You know, so that's going to my point of it's an interesting ploy. So initially, Yammer was $15 per month per user. It's kind of steep, right? Microsoft bought them about 3 months ago, 4 months, 5 months ago, recently, and they dropped the price immediately to $3 per user per month. So it became pretty reasonable. And with that, you get that little button up there at the top that says admin. So I've already paid up for developmentrightpoint.com for my one user, and we do get this screen. There's 4 different areas that you really get here. So you get to change that top area. So I changed this to a really ugly blue. User management, content and security, like we were talking about, what specific things you want to monitor, and then the Success Center, if I can say that right, which is a website by Yammer that lets you get all the goodies. So they have documentation, videos, and most importantly, at least from my point of view, the SharePoint web part, which I'll show you in just a second. One other thing to note is that not only do you have internal networks, but there's also external networks. So if you're communicating, you can kind of use this as an extranet, if you will. You can, if you're working with a client or you're working with a contractor, you can use this to have a small meeting place to share documents, to do the same features that you would do inside of your own network, but in an external way. You can either have these private or public when you set these up, such that people can only be invited once they're approved, or they can be public, anybody can join. For example, Yammer, of course, uses it internally to, if you go yammer.com/yammeru, they have a bunch of they have an external network with a bunch of groups, which allows you to talk with the Yammer team. It's actually been very productive. When I've been learning about Yammer, there's no support forum. You just go to their Yammeru and external network. You have to be invited, or you apply for application a day later. They say you've been accepted, and you can start interacting with the Microsoft team there. It's pretty impressive. It's pretty empowering. It's the same way I think that Twitter is too. Like the fact that you can reach out to Pepsi and say, this new Pepsi Zero or whatever it is, horrible. You know, like that ability to connect directly with a company is really powerful. So any questions about Yammer in itself? I haven't even touched SharePoint yet here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and, so I went out to the Success Center, downloaded the Yammer SharePoint web part, and I've installed it into a SharePoint 2010 environment here. I guess I can say SharePoint Yammer. So you'll see this is just a very standard publishing site. But what I've done here is I've added the Yammer web part here. And if you go ahead and edit this page, you'll see that this web part is really almost 5 different web parts here. It is my feed, my company feed, a group feed. So my feed and company feed are a little bit different. My feed is just stuff related to me. Company feed is the big fire hose, if you will. In a smaller company, like say RightPoint, we're only 80 people. This fire hose is kind of just a couple drops, really, because there's not the value of a social network increases exponentially by the number of people using it. this is some law. Maybe somebody can help me out with what the name of it is. But it goes back to telecom days when they've talked about networking telephones, and they actually said how valuable is your telephone system. It's exponentially improves by the number of people connected to the circuits. So there's the company feed. There's also a group feed. So for example, on the Yammer U, they have one that's just admin and IT, and then they have some other people that are more about governance. There's people about there's some groups about how do I bring Yammer into my company. The user feed, this goes on my sites. So you add the same web part and you add it to my site, and search. So I'll show you my feed in search here live, and then the rest of them you can go to success.yammer.com, see the rest of these. But these are, I think, are the tools.
I'm sorry, can you, what do you mean the user feed is on my sites?
So this you'd only select this for my sites. For example, there's this web part morphs on my sites to show notifications on my sites. So you wouldn't add my feed or company feed there. So they have a couple of properties you save. And so what I've done here, what's also kind of neat is that you can work with a document and share it out to Yammer. Now, initially, I know from a governance point of view, that's a little bit scary, right? My documents are out there in Yammer, but they're actually just links back to SharePoint document repositories. So all the security is still maintained within SharePoint. There is, of course, the caveat: if you name the file "everyone's getting fired tomorrow" and share that out, even though they don't have access to the file, you might want to be a little bit scared. You might want to be a little bit concerned about what's going on there. So still use common sense. Let me show you an example of that.
So people in the group can only find, or everyone in that shares can find that file. Say if I have file name XYZ and they know the file name anyway, right?
Yep.
So only the people in my group where I share it, they can find, not anybody else.
Correct. Yeah. If you share it to your group, only people within your group can have access to it. We'll see it, right? And it'll still be a link out. But yeah, so you can have an executive committee group, and maybe you can then share everyone's getting fired tomorrow. But
to that group, not everyone.
Right. And you can have security around groups too. So if we take a look at here, I'm going to go ahead. Once you install the web part, you can say send to Yammer. You get this little button here. So now you'll notice that it'll say the file is successfully put out to Yammer. And now if we look at Yammer, you'll see that this really came out here. So now I can like, reply, share it with others, bookmark it. There's a lot of other things you can do around here. You can start tagging these things. One of the things it doesn't have that I know some customers have been asking us about is badging. There's not really a true badge story. And when I say badging, I don't know if you know what I mean, but a gamification of something. You know, like as I say, in the popularity contest, if you will, top commenter, most replied comment. There's not a lot of that built into Yammer, and what the gamification does is really encourage people to use Yammer, right? So it's one of the things that Microsoft team is very aware of, they're looking into. Badges are important to some of our customers.
Peter, what does the stop following feature do?
Stop following.
Does it take it out of your feed if you press on?
believe so.
This?
It's a good question. I haven't. I like following everything. So, oh, I think it's a good question. I think it just stops it from coming to your feed. But since I put it out there, I think it's still going to show up here. Good. So,
Isn't it like you get emails each time someone replies, or like mute this post in
that's true. That's what it is. You do get a daily digest at the end of every day, and so that would probably remove it from your daily digest. I don't want to hear about this anymore.
You're getting 1,000 emails a day.
Right. And you can, of course, tailor that subscription. Good. So the next thing I want to show was the search, right? So I have a search center site that comes for free with my publishing site. I ran a crawl last night. Yeah, this can be interesting. I ran a crawl last night. Oh, it's going to take a little time to wake up. And perhaps, I could be wrong. My theory is that my stuff from last night, the second one doesn't actually show up. But you'll see here that there, I again have the same Yammer web part, but on the left side here, it's in the search functionality. So what it does is that it seems like magic, but it really isn't. It's just looking at the query string of K expense and shoving it into the Yammer web part here. So, but the nice thing is that it is inline, and even kind of cooler, is that I can reply right in line.
Is it just the web part plopped on the page, or you have to configure it for search?
It's the web part plopped on the page, configured for search. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I kind of figured that's what it is. Can
Yeah.
you show a little bit on
Yep.
how you configured it?
For sure. Yeah, yeah. So again, it's the same web part, but instead of selecting my feed, I went to search, and yeah, I wish it was. When you look under the covers, it's really not that much. So yeah, you'll see that now if I refresh here out on Yammer, you'll see that I just replied to it. This actually brings up a really good point. So I didn't hit on this earlier. The mobile experience with Yammer is really powerful. It's much better than SharePoint. They have apps for every platform out there. So people would start seeing this on their phones, just like Twitter. They can take a look at this on their phones and reply and post from their phones. Their app is really solid. Hopefully there'll be some unification between that in the future as we go forward. So I've talked about search, share to Yammer. So raise your hand if you're a developer. All right, cool. So they have a REST API too. And let me show you real quick what that is. It uses OAuth initially, and since I'm already authenticated, I'll be able to run these things. But you can get messages, you can get my feed. All comes back as JSON. If I click on this, here's the JSON that came back. So here's my nice comment that just came back. So take with that however you like. You can also post messages. You can do user management. There's a lot of work, custom app dev that can be done around Yammer. So taken to the extreme, let's say a document gets posted to a certain location. You want that automatically shared to Yammer. You can do an event receiver to actually automatically post that out to Yammer. One concept for them. Also, users, for example, let's say I didn't mention this, but Yammer does integrate with Active Directory from a user point of view. So you don't even have, let me repeat that. Yammer integrates with Active Directory from a user point of view, which is awesome. So when people are termed, it flows straight in. There's a little connect. Again, that sounds, the way it's implemented is that there's a daemon that runs on a server somewhere, that there's an app that runs there, and it knows how to talk to Active Directory, how to talk to Yammer, and kind of connects the two with some glue. If you look underneath the scenes, it's actually watching Active Directory, and then making calls to the REST API. But they did all the code for you, right? Yeah.
Somebody gets termed. If they try to log in with an email that should be, except in that case where you mentioned the popular sales guide, where you don't want to turn off this email.
Yeah.
Did I miss your explanation of workaround for that one? How to handle it?
Just thinking off the top of my head is talk with your IT people and say, any emails coming from Yammer, bounce. Every other one, let flow in. Right? It's not a great story, is it? So if you integrate with Active Directory, all that stuff flows for free for you. You can, of course, write that tool yourself too, but it's a pretty complex tool. I've disassembled it, and it's intricate what they're doing. Any questions about the REST API at all?
So I understand the API from the Yammer perspective, right?
Yep.
What about the SharePoint? If I have, see, I can understand it's like a structure here. The SharePoint, the documents are there. I have legacy of like how many years on the SharePoint. Now I need to slowly move to Yammer, given that it's more UI and everything. So how these two are interacting with it?
So you don't have to move your documents at all to Yammer. And arguably,
Not moving them, but not people who are using the Yammer.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's one that will hopefully be answered. There is still almost a dichotomy of SharePoint 2013 social and Yammer social, right? Or SharePoint social, my site, all those things, following people. And there's Yammer. You can put the Yammer web part into SharePoint social, but even right now, some of our current customers, there's no good way to interweave. Our customers have been asking for this. How can I interweave these two feeds? There's no real good answer for that. What Microsoft has said is that in the next 6 to 9 months, for Office 365, you'll be seeing better answers to that. And maybe in the next 18 months, this is again going back to SharePoint conference, so plus whatever months we are from that. Better story for on-prem. So the feeds themselves are not intertwined.
So if I want to make a dashboard of who is the active users, who are the alpha users, and all this stuff, right? On Yammer, I can make it. But when it comes to SharePoint, still I have block, right?
So if you want to see that, if you want to surface that into SharePoint, you can do that through this REST API. You can code anything, right? This REST API is pretty powerful. We can talk about it more afterwards if you like. So 2013, this is actually a really good segue. So that's about the rest of my demo here for SharePoint 2010 in Yammer. The next story is SharePoint 2013. So go ahead.
Is there a out-of-the-box functionality on Yammer where somebody can post a status update or a comment in the newsfeed, attach the file, and that file automatically gets inserted into a list?
In 2013, yes. That's actually a really good, that will happen.
Because it seems like the user has to upload the file first and then do the status updates.
Yep. It seems like a couple extra steps, right? In 2013, I'll actually show, I'm going to cheat here in a little bit because there's no available source for it. I'm going to show you about a minute, 30-second YouTube clip from the keynote. But essentially, you work inside of they're calling it my SkyDrive now, which was Groove before. So essentially, you save a file locally, it gets automatically uploaded into SharePoint, and you share it from Yammer, all from Yammer itself.
But there's no way to do that in 2010.
Correct. It's a great segue into my 2013 talk. I didn't plant them, I swear to God. So why still use, so first off, let's go back. 2013. Why talk about Yammer in the first place? Why did Microsoft buy Yammer? if they've already got social, anyways. Some of the things is the virality of Yammer that SharePoint really couldn't do on their own. They've been trying since 2010, and while it has been semi-successful, it hasn't been nearly as successful as in that short run that Yammer has really taken off. Secondly, maybe part of that reason is that in SharePoint, you have to actively reach out and follow individual people, documents, things you're interested in. You have to know what you want. In Yammer, you can just follow a group. You can get a digest about sales, marketing. Yeah.
You have to be a part of that group, like, you know, like right now on SharePoint, you're part of the group, you have to just
Yeah.
SharePoint also provides that group digest every time you want. It's not like you don't get.
There.
I've been in SharePoint for 6 that's why.
Mm-hmm.
Last
You have to opt into that,
Yes.
to the site,
Yes.
to that site, right? You can follow a site, no
Right.
doubt. But an entire group where like there's a large group conversation going on, that's not really available in SharePoint. There's,
You're right.
yeah, totally about sites. You can follow those. So let me show you. You know, this is a really good point, a really good segue for me to go to. Bear with me. I hate doing this, but let me show you about a minute and a half here from the SharePoint 2012 conference keynote, where this is right now who's speaking is the CTO of Yammer. Now he's like a director level at Microsoft, but he kind of walks you through the situation you were talking about earlier.
Most of you store most of your files in SharePoint. And yet in Yammer, you can already post and talk about files in Yammer. What we want to do is make it really easy to share and talk about the files that are in SharePoint today. Even easier than what I just showed you. So here I am in a group in Yammer. I'm going to go ahead and click Add a Document. And as you can see, we've got a new option. We're trying to select a file from SkyDrive Pro. Bam! This is a set of files from SkyDrive. I can create a new message. Here it is. Boom. Now this file is not in Yammer. This file is still in SharePoint, and yet I can click Preview and get a full fidelity preview from within Yammer. Better yet, I can go to the file, again see the preview, see related content again, see the conversations, see versions, see the followers. I can even click to edit the document right in line. But even more amazing, now we've got these files in Yammer. Let's say I'm another person. And what I want to do, you know, I'm using SkyDrive Pro, and I'm syncing all my team sites to my desktop. Well, here's that same file on my desktop. I can double click it, open it in Word, and now I am in a collaborative editing session from my desktop in a Word client with someone who's also editing the document online in Yammer. Now, this is just a preview of some of the deeper integrations we're working on. We're obviously working on many, many more.
And they go on and talk about all the stuff we're going to do. But that is pretty cool. The ability to be within Yammer, like you were talking about, is that kind of what you were thinking about? Or does that address some of the things you were thinking about?
Yeah, to an extent.
Okay. What holes do you think you see in that?
Well, you said using it as an extranet portal.
Yeah.
So if you have vendors putting invoices on there, how it can automatically be in the list.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, so let me just talk about also. I'm sorry, Helen, do you have a question? I was going to get into the roadmap of what is available, how much it costs, when stuff's coming. So today, right now, you essentially get what I just showed you. You get basic integration, web parts. They also have Open Graph, which I really didn't show you that much. Later this year, there's tighter integration around the documents and feeds. And then what they said in the future, they're going to talk a little more about this here, is combining social, collaboration, email, IM. Yammer does have IM inside of it. Video. So essentially, I get the impression from hearing that as lay observer, I don't have any insight into it, that they're going to integrate Link into Yammer. So it unify those two. So for right now, there's still a lot of open questions about 2013 around it. And then timing. So if you are a Office 365 customer, you get this for free. You get Yammer for free. And they're going to start rolling out all these enhanced features to you sooner or before the on-prem people get it. We will eventually get it, maybe next 12, 18 months, maybe as a cumulative update, maybe the service pack, maybe it's complete sideload add-on. That's still up in the air how that'll be packaged. So for right now, we can do what I showed you, SharePoint 2010. That 2010 web part does not work in 2013 either right now. So you really, for a lot of these Yammer integrations, you're locked into 2010. So the real moral of the story is around this 2013 stuff. I'd say wait and let it shake out a little bit. You can still write the REST API stuff. That's not tied to 2010 or 2013. But if you are looking to do a 2013 deployment and are really interested in some of the Yammer enterprise features, it might be best to stay on the sidelines. That's all I have. Any questions? Say that again? Can you host Yammer on-prem? Yammer is a completely cloud solution. It's all out in the cloud. That being said, you do have the ability to download all data with it as an enterprise customer. So even from a governance point of view, if you want to think about that, you can have a cron job that goes out there, downloads all your data and comes back. But from a security point of view, if you're a little bit worried about that, same concerns you're going to have with SharePoint Online, with any cloud solution.
So, from a very large enterprise standpoint, I'm having problems really understanding. I understand the collaboration within small groups, but large enterprise, isn't it more noise? I just don't see users using this or the social things. What business use cases have you seen with really large clients?
Yeah. So, did you want to answer that?
Well,
I got one answer, maybe and then we'll come back. I'd like this to be a discussion.
well, it's such a large enterprise. You have so many silos, and so people don't know how to, go over those silos and talk to each other. And this really helps enable that more effectively, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Large enterprise.
To your point about noise, there's like what I've noticed people doing in larger, like 60,000 people. We're talking really large Yammer installations. People tend to follow people. They might see it come through in a group, but then they actually go to my feed of the people that I've actually started subscribing to, and they're seeing people that have good nuggets of information. And it does become collaborative. Like, hey, did you see that guy on Yammer? Like, you should really start following him. The same way Twitter.
In a business setting, people wouldn't put up front jump and lose your credibility very quickly.
Good point.
They get weeded out very quickly by mindful managers to say, please shut up.
Right.
Just like garbage in the feed. You're going to be pretty quickly put to silence
Yeah.
in a big organization.
To your point.
Use cases too, Peter, for a big organization is if you've got a question, you don't necessarily know who the expert is. If you do, you can email that person directly, but you might not know who the expert in some particular domain is. If you know where the Yammer group is, you can post that question out there and people can elect to help you rather than you have to reach out and find them.
Aon in Australia posted a question looking for someone who could help match her to a product or a client policy requirement. She had a very specific comment about this is the kind of cover I'm looking for. And it came in my daily summary, and we tried to follow up on it to the best of our ability. We did it in the States.
Yeah.
And I started making phone calls. Using people find. Is anybody who can help me? She's like, no, this is what I'm looking for. We couldn't match her the right policy, but we let her know we were watching.
Yeah.
We're watching her daily the same with Samurai.
And back when I was at Thomson Reuters and Google Plus was invite only, I got a Google Plus invite from a guy in Switzerland. Thomson Reuters just
All right.
it's easy to navigate around and find that specific person who can help. Yammer.
You have a question back there? Did I miss one?
Yeah, no. So I mean, I guess it feels like you still have your SharePoint site, and then you're going to have now Yammer, where you have like some cross integration here, but the end result is you still have these two products. Like, is there going to be kind of a merger where like
I sure
you
hope
do
so.
everything from SharePoint? Because I feel like introducing all your employees being like, hey, by the way, you want to do anything, you also have to go over here.
Yeah, maybe they buy Shammer.com. I don't know, and that's the only place you go to. But that's a great point. And they say there's going to be some more merging of the two together, and they've heard that comment. I'm not a product manager, and I don't know where I'd start to answer that question. But right now, they are two distinct products, still very early on in their merger, mind meld, or whatever.
It sounds like the value prop would be very focused on the mobile.
Yep.
Because the app is solid.
Oh.
Well, you anticipated my question about whether or not the link and LVUC features would be integrated because, basically things that can hold in your hand.
Yeah. Imagine your Link app becoming your Shammer app, or SharePoint Yammer app.
Shammer's taken on it.
Is it? We already did?
Yeah. So he squats on it.
Some squatter. Yep.
What opportunities vendors like RightPoint has to mergers, right? Now, companies have SharePoint data, legacy data. Yammer, somebody is experimenting with them. Yammer. Actually, I don't know how many companies are actually enterprise customers using Yammer. So, assuming that they start, and as mobility comes in picture, and they will start using Yammer, right? So, what opportunity companies like you as a vendor would have during the merger integration? And what you say, hey, wait for 2013 to be, or you do it right now?
So it depends. So if they're doing a 2013 rollout right now, I would not stop a 2013 rollout because of Yammer. I don't think it's that big of a. There's so much else in 2013 that trumps Yammer. I don't think that shouldn't drive your decision. If you're going to be doing 2010, I'd say really look into Yammer, some of these web parts, or at least get some governance. At least be aware of it from a free point of view, and get some governance from a very large organization point of view. You want to make sure that you're not opening yourself up to potential legal problems down the road. So I know this sounds very antisocial, in a different sense of use of the word, but I'd say shut it down if I'm a large organization from a governance point of view. Either shut it down or pay for it, because it is a scary thing from a governance point of view. If I were in charge of that, that's kind of hard way to look at it.
If you don't pay for it, people are going to organize themselves in the free networks.
Yep. And that's scary, right? From a governance point of view.
That's even worse.
Yep.
If they start gathering on their own.
Yep. Yeah,
I have a whole bunch of ex-bosses on Facebook. I didn't want to be there. They said, no, can't keep staying out there in the 20th century.
But still, in the group, if you want to join a group, you need to have admin approval, right? You cannot go to any group and be part of that.
Right. Correct.
Still, the governance will be still there, right? You are working with them. Right? Whatever tools you're going to use, governance is going to be. It's just making it easier for you to be more on the fringe side. That's it. But in the SharePoint also, you're part of a group. Any member, if he or she wants to become, he can do whatever he wants, right? Same thing for. So I don't understand the governance that I need to be more focused on the Yammer versus SharePoint.
SharePoint you can control, right? You can control that from a governance point of view very easily.
Right.
For Yammer, it's more difficult. If somebody posts all company feed something that they shouldn't have, and it was perhaps innocent. It wasn't. A lot of times when you have these situations, it wasn't somebody being malicious, but they probably shouldn't have shared something that they did. You know, and it's hard. You can still come down on it. You still just have to watch it. It's just like it's corporate. It's managing your corporate communications around it. Make sure you're at least aware of it. So my hope is that at least you're aware of it. I hope that when you guys go home, you sign up for your company's Yammer and take a look at what it looks like. And maybe you guys could be the. That's the nice thing about the groundswell approach is that you could help in some of the governance and say, hey, maybe we should be posting that. Good. That's all I got. Or,
With Office 365, first of all, are they, is that SharePoint 2013 with Office 365? And then as you progress, will the Yammer integrations happen sort of regularly, or?
Good question. It's the same way they've been doing the upgrades for Office 365, where do I get upgraded today? I don't know. You know, it kind of happens. I haven't heard anything about it, but I have a feeling that you will not. I can almost guarantee it. You will not get Yammer until you get your 2013 upgrade. I think everyone will get their 2013 upgrade on Office 365 before the Yammer rollouts really start happening. All right, thanks for coming, guys. I'll leave this. Okay.
Exactly.
I feel like you know everything you just like you right now. It's funny, we experience